not what you think. Written and narrated by J.R. Ferguson. You're not crazy. You're waking up. You didn't pick up this book because you wanted more noise. You're holding it because somewhere deep inside, you've started to suspect that what you've been told about who you are, what life is, what matters, might be bullshit. You're right. What follows isn't a philosophy, a brand, or a path to self-improvement. This is not a teaching. This is a stripping. I'm not a guru, a mystic, or a life coach. I'm just a man who burned through enough illusion to finally stop pretending, and enough of what I thought I was to see what I never stopped being. Who's talking to you? My name's JR. I'm not famous. I'm not a monk. I didn't grow up with special insight or spiritual training. I grew up in West Texas, started a roofing company when I was a teenager, and built it into the largest one in the state by my early 30s. Then I lost it all. And that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Not because failure is noble or because struggle is romantic, but because it burned away the illusion I'd been living in my whole life, that I was somebody, that I had something to prove, that if I just worked hard enough, achieved enough, looked right, spoke well, helped people, led teams, made money, I'd finally feel whole. I had all of it. I lost all of it. And I survived both. But what I didn't expect was what came next, a quiet, burning clarity that hasn't left me since. Why this book exists. I didn't write this because I wanted to. I wrote it because I couldn't not write it. When something true begins to speak through you, something that doesn't need anything, doesn't promote anything, doesn't flinch under pressure, it demands a form. This book is that form. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about what remains when everything false finally dies. This book won't tell you what to do, but it might show you what you're not. And if you're ready to lose that, you might find what you've been chasing the whole time. Not success, not peace, not purpose, just what you are, without needing to call it anything. The lie we live. You are not what others think you are. You're not even what you think you are. For most of my life, I thought I was building something, a name, a legacy, an identity that would finally silence the voice in my head telling me I wasn't enough. That voice ran everything. It told me to prove myself, to chase approval, to win love. So I did. I built, I hustled, I achieved, and still, I was miserable. I thought if I just got far enough, strong enough, rich enough, respected enough, maybe then I'd feel like I mattered. But no matter how high I climbed, the fear climbed with me. I was living for the world, its approval, its applause, its definitions of worth. I believed the lie that life was about becoming someone, and it almost killed me. In 2015, I reached the edge. I didn't plan to attempt suicide. I was ready to go through with it. I'm a planner. I wasn't crying out for help. I had made peace with ending it. I put my fingers to my head, took a breath, and pulled the trigger in a dry run just to feel it, to know I could. But something strange happened. Nothing changed. The couch didn't give a shit. The entertainment center didn't care. The house was still there. I went upstairs and looked out the window and I saw cars driving by and people walking, and it just didn't matter. Life just kept going. It was like the world was saying, you don't matter as much as you think, but in the best possible way. And in that quiet moment, something opened up. Like, how about you don't and say you did? What if you just lived like you already died? No more chasing, no more pretending, no more performing. Just live. That shift cracked the illusion. I started asking better questions. What do you really want, JR? At first, I called it happiness. Now I see it's something deeper. What I really wanted was peace, stillness, oneness with life. The feeling of being whole without needing anything outside of me to prove it. And when I got honest, I saw it clearly. I'd rather be hated and homeless, but whole, than rich, loved, and secretly dying inside. Because I had already lived the second one, and it was hell. That's when the words of Jesus finally made sense to me. Not as religion, but as truth. Love God above all else. To me, that means love life itself above the illusions. Choose peace over perception. Choose presence over performance. Choose what's real over what's rewarded. The lie we live is that we are what the world reflects back to us. But the truth is, you're not what you think, and definitely not what they think. You're something far beyond all that. You just forgot. The ego costume. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me will find it. Matthew 16:25. You were never born with an ego. You were born aware, silent, present, unbothered. Then the world started stitching a costume around you, a name, a role, a personality, 1,000 tiny messages about who you were supposed to be, what mattered, what didn't. Over time, you didn't just wear the costume. You forgot it was a costume. You started thinking, this is me, but it's not. The ego isn't evil. It's just scared. It's the layer between who you really are and who you think you have to be to survive. It's why you lie without realizing it. It's why you hold back your light. It's why you feel like you're never enough, even when you're winning. It tells you to climb the ladder while making sure you never feel safe on any rung. Because if you ever stop performing, you might see that you were never the performer. You were the stage. The ego doesn't want to be bad. It wants to be important. It wants to be right, loved, needed, successful, respected. It wants to be someone, because if it's not, it thinks it'll disappear. That's the great confusion. Jesus didn't come to make your ego feel better. He came to invite you to drop it all together. Not hate it, not shame it, just see it and step out of it. Take off the old self, Paul wrote, and put on the new. Ephesians 4:22-24. But the new isn't actually new. It's what was always underneath. The ego isn't just the loud thoughts, it's the subtle ones, the defensiveness, the guilt, the pride, the shame, the hidden hunger to be seen. It's the identity that's terrified of being invisible. But here's the truth. The moment you stop trying to be someone, you remember what you are. Still, clear, aware, untouched. That's the moment the real you starts to come through. Not the improved version, not the polished mask. The presence that doesn't need anything to be valid. That's what the world is starving for. Not better people, just fewer masks. So if you feel like you're being stripped right now, good. You're not falling apart. You're just waking up to what you never stopped being. And every piece of ego that falls away isn't a loss. It's a layer of fiction burning off the light underneath. You don't need to become anything. You just need to remember You were never the costume. The voice in your head isn't you. Take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. 2 Corinthians 10:5. If you've ever said, I can't stop thinking, you've already met the voice I'm talking about. It narrates your life. It judges your past. It worries about your future. It says things like, I should have done better. What if they don't like me? I need to get it together. They have it easier than I do. I'll finally be okay when. That voice never shuts up. It sounds like you. It speaks from inside your head. But here's the truth. It's not you. It's a loop, a self-protection program developed over time, built by parents, teachers, trauma, expectations, comparison, culture, and fear. It pretends to be your guide, but its real job is to keep the illusion alive. That's why it never brings peace. It promises safety, but it only offers control. It keeps you solving problems that don't exist, defending things that aren't under attack, chasing approval from people who don't even know themselves. That voice is the ego in language form. And most people live their entire life obeying it. But the deeper truth is this: you're the one hearing the voice. You're the one aware of it. You're not the thought, you're the space the thought appears in. That's what Jesus was pointing to over and over. Let him who has ears hear. He wasn't talking about ears on your head. He was pointing to a deeper listening, the awareness underneath the noise. The real you doesn't talk. It watches. It doesn't argue. It sees. It's the presence behind the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. And once you realize this, the game changes. You stop trying to fix the voice. You stop believing everything it says. You stop needing it to go away. You just start noticing. And in that noticing, its grip weakens. Because when you're aware of the voice, you're no longer possessed by it. You're free. Paul said to take every thought captive. He didn't say fight it. He said see it, grab it, hold it up to the light. If it's not aligned with truth, let it burn. So next time the voice whispers, you're not enough, or you have to do more to matter, just pause, breathe, and remember, the one hearing the lie is already free of it. You don't need to argue with the noise. You just need to stop mistaking it for you. The thoughts will keep coming, but your job is simple. Don't follow them. Stay in the silence that watches, because that silence, that's where truth lives. Not killing the ego, letting it starve. If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Matthew 16:24. Most people try to kill the ego like it's a villain in a movie. They fight it, suppress it, shame it, try to meditate it away, or dress it up in spiritual language so it sounds holy. But here's the truth. You don't kill the ego, you starve it. And starvation isn't loud, it's not dramatic. It's not a spiritual battle with fire and lightning. It's just this. You stop feeding it what it wants. What does it feed on? Validation, control, praise, status, image, comparison, resentment, being right, being seen, being somebody. You stop giving it that, and it starts to shrink. You let it speak, but you don't obey. You see it flinch, and you don't defend. You feel it panic, and you stay still, and slowly, quietly, it begins to dissolve. That's what Jesus meant by deny yourself. Not self-hate, not self-neglect, but the death of the false self, the one that's always trying to prove, defend, or perform. It's not about killing anything. It's about becoming so empty that there's nothing left to feed the illusion. You stop playing the role. You stop performing for approval. You stop reaching for anything that makes you feel more important, more holy, more special. And what's left? Stillness, presence, peace that doesn't depend on outcome. That's how the ego dies, not by violence, but by absence. It can't survive without your belief in it. And that's the power you've always had, to stop feeding the story. Even the story that says, I'm getting rid of my ego. Because here's the twist. Ego is crafty. It will use even your desire for spiritual growth to stay alive. It will whisper, look how far you've come. You're almost there. They don't get it like you do. But when you see that voice clearly and let it go without needing to punish it, that's the cross Jesus talked about. Not suffering for show, but the quiet, relentless death of self-importance. You carry it daily. Not because God demands it, but because illusion doesn't let go without a fight. And you're not fighting it anymore. You're just not feeding it. And that's what sets you free. Facing the quiet. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. This is the part that breaks most people, not the chaos, not the pain, the stillness. Because once the noise dies down, once you've burned off enough ego, escaped the chase, stopped playing the character, it gets quiet. And that's when it hits you. You're alone, not abandoned, not punished, just face to face with the thing you've been running from your whole life, yourself. No distractions, no applause, no identity left to hide behind. That silence, that's where the real burning begins. Because ego can survive suffering. It feeds on suffering, but it can't survive stillness. Stillness starves it. And that's why it fights back. Not with a scream, with a whisper. Is this it? Am I losing myself? Will anyone see me if I disappear? It wants back in. Even as it dies, it begs to be remembered. But you're not here to manage that voice. You're here to stop mistaking it for you. That's what Jesus did in the wilderness. He didn't argue with the devil. He didn't scream back. He just stood there, empty, unmoved, anchored. No identity to protect. No outcome to control. Just presence. And that's what this chapter of your life is. Not the battle, the test. Can you stay when there's nothing left to hold you? Can you be still when every part of you wants to run? Can you sit in the fire without trying to be spiritual about it? Because if you can, that's where it all breaks. Not you, the illusion. And what's left is what's always been beneath it. Still, untouched, real. God isn't waiting on a mountain. He's in the silence you've been avoiding, always has been. So if you're here, don't flinch. You're not lost. You're just finally out of distractions. And now, the real work begins. When love doesn't come back. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Matthew 5:46. This one cuts deep because this is where most of the ego still hides. not in wanting to be rich or famous, but in wanting to be loved back. You give everything. You show up. You stay loyal, and they don't. You say, I love you, and all you hear back is silence, and something inside breaks. Not because they didn't say it, but because you thought they were supposed to. This is the ego's last stronghold, conditional love. The belief that love should return if it's real. The belief that effort earns response. The belief that someone else completing the circle will finally complete you. But that's not love. That's a contract. The truth, real love doesn't loop. It burns. It doesn't require acknowledgement. It doesn't demand reciprocity. It doesn't need to be received to be true. That's the kind of love Jesus walked in. He healed people who never thanked him. He served those who would abandon him. He forgave the ones who nailed him to wood, not for credit, not for completion, just because love is what he was. That's the lesson no one wants to hear. If your love needs to come back to feel real, it wasn't love. It was a deal your ego made with the world. This is where the fire purifies you. You love your kids, even when they don't say thanks. You love your ex, even if she can't see who you've become. You love the ones who misunderstood you, because your clarity no longer depends on their agreement. That's what it means to love like God loves. No strings, no scorecard, no need to be seen. So if it hurts right now, good. That's the ego peeling back its last layer. You're not dying. You're being emptied. You're learning to love without needing anything in return. And that's the most dangerous kind of love there is, because nothing can touch it. Not betrayal, not silence, not even death. It just keeps burning, quiet, unshakable, free. Being misunderstood is part of it. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Matthew 5:11. Let's just say it. If you keep going, burning off the ego, walking in truth, letting the light speak, you're going to lose people. You're going to get misunderstood, not by strangers, by the people closest to you, the ones you've bled for, the ones you thought would see you. And it's not because you've done something wrong. It's because you've stopped playing their game. And they don't know how to relate to someone who doesn't need validation anymore. You've become a mirror. And that terrifies people who are still clinging to their mask. They'll say, you've changed. You think you're better. You're too intense. You're selfish. You're crazy. And you'll feel it. This temptation to explain yourself, to defend, to fix the image they've created of you in their head. But don't. Because this is where most people fold. They dim their light just enough to be palatable. They shrink just enough to stay relatable. They go back to the mask because being misunderstood hurts more than pretending. But not you. You've already died once. You've already stood in the fire of your own self-image and let it burn. So this isn't new pain. It's just old attachments catching flame. Jesus said you'd be insulted, lied about, rejected. Not because you're wrong, but because you're standing where they're scared to look. And that's the cost of clarity. But here's the truth. You already feel deep down. You don't need to be understood. You just need to stay aligned. Let the noise swirl. Let the critics talk. Let the silence grow between you and the people who once cheered for your mask. Because every step you take into truth becomes a beacon for the few who are ready to wake up. not the many, just the real ones. They don't need your explanation. They'll feel it. And when they do, they won't applaud you. They'll burn with you because you weren't sent to be accepted. You were sent to be clear, and clarity offends the fog. So stay still. Let them call you whatever they need to. Let them walk away. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the pressure to wake up. And when they're ready, they'll remember the one person who never flinched. That's you. Doing without needing. The one who does not love remains in death. First, John 3:14. You used to do things to become someone. Now you do them because there's nothing in the way. You used to work to be seen, to matter, to climb. Now you work because movement happens and clarity demands it. This is the shift. Before, you needed the doing to feel alive. Now, the aliveness is already there, so the doing becomes clean. This is what people don't understand about real freedom. It doesn't mean you stop acting. It means you stop acting for yourself. You stop selling for approval. You stop building to be remembered. You stop giving just to be loved back. You may still run companies, raise kids, build homes, lead teams, but the fire behind it has changed. It's no longer fueled by fear or scarcity. It's not trying to fix some ache inside. It's just love in motion, detached, clear, unshakable. That's what Jesus meant when he said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." When you've dropped the false self, there's nothing left to carry. You move, but you're not the one pushing anymore. The ego says, "What do I get if I do this?" Awareness says, "What wants to move through me right now?" And you let it. You don't hoard credit. You don't hide from failure. You don't perform to be enough. You act because love wants form. You speak because truth wants voice. You create because stillness makes movement when it's full. This is what it means to live after the burning. You're not trying to matter. You already do, because the you that needed proof is gone. And what's left? A life that doesn't need reward to be beautiful. A heart that doesn't need applause to stay open. A presence that no longer needs a reason to give everything. Not to win, not to survive, just because it's real. And realness, once remembered, never runs dry. Stillness in the real world. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Stillness isn't silence. It isn't meditation. It isn't leaving the world to live on a mountaintop. Stillness is being untouched by the noise while standing right in the middle of it. You can be in traffic, on the phone, managing a crisis, and still carry a stillness that cuts through all of it. Most people think peace means escape. They want to get away so they can feel okay. But that kind of peace isn't real, because the moment life hits again, it's gone. Real stillness doesn't need conditions. It doesn't need the kids to be quiet. It doesn't need the deal to close. It doesn't need the body to feel good or the world to agree. It just needs one thing: presence without resistance. And that's what you've been building this whole time. Not a perfect life, a stable internal world that doesn't flinch when things fall apart. Because they will. And the difference between peace and panic is this: do you believe your thoughts, or do you watch them without biting the hook? Stillness is not the absence of thought. It's the absence of attachment. Jesus didn't panic when storms came. He didn't flinch when crowds turned. He didn't run from pressure. He stood in it, rooted in something deeper than outcome. And that's what you're returning to. In business, you make the deal or you don't. But either way, you're not moved. In family, you show up with love, even when it's not returned. In conflict, you hold the standard without defending yourself. Because peace isn't passive, it's the fiercest stance there is. To remain clear when everything around you wants you to react. This is the new way of living: stillness in motion, silence that speaks without sound, leadership without control, love without conditions. It doesn't look flashy, it doesn't need attention, but it's unshakable. And in a world addicted to reaction, you become the one place that doesn't move. Truth without identity. I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. Galatians 2:20. Here's the final trap. Thinking the truth is something you have, something you found, something that belongs to you. It's not. The moment truth becomes part of your identity, it becomes distorted. Because now it's not about clarity. It's about being the one who's clear. And that quiet shift ruins everything. You've probably felt it. You start seeing deeper. The illusion fades. You speak with clean fire. People feel it, and some follow. But if you're not careful, the ego circles back through the back door. It whispers, "You're ahead of them. You're awake. They don't get it like you do." And now, without knowing it, truth has become another costume. This time, the mask looks holy. It looks humble. It uses sharp words and spiritual tones. But it's still a mask. The real truth doesn't need a spokesperson. It doesn't need to win. It doesn't need to be believed. It just is. That's why Jesus never argued. He didn't chase followers. He didn't defend his position. He just spoke what was real. And if it landed, it landed. If not, he moved on. He didn't carry truth as an identity. He emptied enough to let it speak through him. And that's your next step. Not to become someone who knows, but to become no one. So truth can pass through without distortion. No agenda, no defense, no pride in being awake. Just awareness, clean and clear. When you live like this, you stop needing to be right. You stop correcting people to prove a point. You stop holding on to insights like possessions. You speak when it's needed. You stay quiet when it's not. And you never confuse your voice for the voice. Because the truth doesn't need your personality. It needs your absence. So here's the final unlock. You don't carry the light. You get out of the way so the light can carry itself. No identity, just clarity. And that's the only way the truth stays pure, the end and the beginning. Truly, I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Luke 23:43. Death isn't the end. It's the part where the story gets quiet enough for you to finally hear what was always there. But the death we're talking about here, it doesn't wait for your body to stop breathing. It starts the moment you let go of becoming anyone. When the story collapses, when the striving ends, when the voice in your head finally runs out of reasons to keep pretending. That's death. And it's not scary. It's clean. But here's the part that most never realize. You don't need to die. to be reborn. You just need to stop dragging time with you. Time is the illusion that tells you awakening is a process, that healing takes years, that truth is a ladder. But truth has no timeline. It just is. The thief on the cross didn't attend church. He didn't grow. He didn't prove himself. He just saw clearly, once. And Jesus said, today, not after you fix yourself, not once you understand everything. Now, that's the secret. Rebirth doesn't wait for you to be ready. It happens the moment you stop trying to be anything at all. Right now, in this breath. But we've been taught that life is a line: birth, success, death, heaven, as if eternity is waiting for you on the other side of a coffin. But eternity isn't later. It's what you're already standing in, if you just stop looking through the lens of your calendar. So what really dies? Your grip on identity, your belief that anything in form can complete you, your addiction to meaning. And what's reborn? Nothing. That's the beauty of it. There's no new you, just what's always been here, finally seen, the one who never left, the stillness beneath the chaos, the light behind the face, the eternal now, without a name. Time collapses, fear dissolves, and what remains isn't you enlightened. It's just truth, naked, burning, free. So stop waiting. Stop healing in slow motion. The door's already open. Let everything die that was never real and walk in. No legacy, no name, just light. Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. Luke 9:23. You don't need to be remembered. That's the final freedom. Not because your life didn't matter, but because the part of you that wanted to matter was never the real you. The ego wants legacy. It wants to leave a name, a quote, a statue, a movement. It wants to make sure someone, somewhere, says he was somebody. But truth doesn't need a gravestone. It doesn't carve its initials into history. It moves through form like wind through trees, never clinging, never needing credit, never demanding applause. Jesus didn't say, "Make me famous." He said, "Follow me," not to a throne, to a cross, to a place where the story ends and what remains is light, bare, silent, unbranded. He wasn't building an empire. He was laying down the self. And when it was gone, all that was left was God in human skin, clear, surrendered, free. That's the invitation. Not to build a platform, but to dissolve the one who wanted one. Not to make your mark, but to burn so clean that nothing of you gets in the way. Because when there's no name to defend, no identity to reinforce, no legacy to preserve, you become available. And in that availability, truth moves without friction. The ones who change the world don't do it by effort. They do it by absence. No need to be seen. No need to be right. Just presence. So bright, so unfiltered, it rearranges the room. So if the light's burning in you now, don't worry about how to carry it. Let it carry you. Let it burn away the rest. Let it move through your work, your words, your silence. You don't need a monument. You are the flame. No legacy, no name, okay, just light. And that's enough. If you're reading this, you're ready. Thank you for listening to Not What You Think.